Through the line, yeah.
Oh, great.
We'll just ambush him as soon as we see him.
Perfect. The Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Baisley, Bridges, Buckner, Coleman, Cutter, Danielson, Exum, Fields, Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, 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 Hanson, Henriksen, Jaquez Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Coker, Liston, Lundeen, Marchman,
Excused.
Moreno, Mullica, Mullica,
Absent.
Pelton B, Pelton R, Priola, Rich, Roberts, Rodriguez, Simpson, Smallwood,
Excused.
Sullivan, Van Winkle, Will, Winter, Zenzinger, Mullica, Mr. President,
Here. The morning roll call is 33 present, 0 absent, 2 excused. We do have a quorum. Will the good senator from Denver please lead us in the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, guest staff, please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
Approval of the journal. Senator Colker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate Journal of Wednesday, March 15th, 2023 be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no?
Do you have any committee reports?
The ayes have it.
Or
The
are
motion
they?
is adopted. Committee reports. I said Senate Services.
March 16, 2023, correctly re-engrossed. Senate Bill 17, 22, 58, 87, 94, and 162, correctly revised. House Bills 1011, House Joint Resolution 1018, correctly re-revised. House Bill 1006, 1031, 1040, and 1140, correctly enrolled. Senate Bill 57 and 78.
Committee reports.
March 14, 2023, Mr. President, the Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar confirmed. Members of the Denver Metropolitan Major League Stadium District Board of Directors for terms expiring August 2026. Gregory Anton of Denver, Colorado, appointed. Damon O'Barry of Westminster, Colorado, reappointed. F. Robert Lee of Littleton, Colorado, reappointed. David Scott Martinez of Golden, Colorado, reappointed. March 15, 2023, the Committee on Judiciary, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 190 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1187 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 188 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 15, 2023, the Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 189 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation.
Message from the House.
March 15, 2023, Mr. President, the House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the reviser of statutes House Bill 1009 and 1024, amended as printed in House Journal March 14, 2023. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the reviser of statutes House Bill 1191. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the reviser of statutes Senate Bill 37, amended as printed in House Journal March 14, 2023. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the reviser of statutes House Bill 1171, amended as printed in House Journal March 14, 2023, and amended on third reading as printed in House Journal March 15, 2023. The House has passed on third reading and returns herewith Senate Bill 78 and 57.
Message from the reviser.
March 15, 2023, we herewith transmit without comment House Bill 1191 without comment as amended, House Bill 1009, 1024, and 1171 without comment as amended, Senate Bill 37.
Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 191, Senator Cutter and Representative Josephine Kipp, concerning a study regarding diversion of organic materials from landfills.
Agriculture and Natural Resources.
Senate Bill 192 by Senators Priola and Roberts, Representatives Kipp and McLaughlin, concerning the continuation of the Pesticide Applicators Act and in connection therewith implementing recommendations contained in the 2022 Census Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies regarding the Act.
Agriculture and Natural Resources.
House Bill 1027, Representatives Joseph and Wiseman, Senator Winter F., concerning family time provided pursuant to the Children's Code and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1061, Representatives Doherty and Taggart, Senator Zenzinger, concerning permitting a retail establishment to serve complimentary alcohol beverages at a place of business and in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Business, Labor, and Technology.
House Bill 1068, Representative Valdez and Senators Winter F., concerning pet animal ownership and housing and in connection therewith, prohibiting restrictions on dog breeds for obtaining homeowners insurance, providing for the manner in which pet animals are handled when a writ of restitution is executed, limiting security deposits and rent for pet animals and excluding pet animals from personal property liens.
Local Government Housing.
House Bill 1077, Representatives Wilford and Garcia, Senators Winter F. and Huckas Lewis, concerning a requirement to obtain a patient's informed consent before performing an intimate examination of the patient under specified circumstances and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1094 by Representative Lukens and Catlin, Senators Roberts and Pelton R., concerning modifications to the Agricultural Workforce Development Program.
Agriculture and Natural Resources.
House Bill 1130 by Representatives Michelson, Janay, and Senators Rodriguez, concerning requirements for prescription drug coverage for serious mental illness and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1132, Representatives Snyder and Soper, Senator Fields, concerning the Court Data Sharing Task Force and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1168, Representatives Sharbini and Joseph, Senators Winter F., concerning legal representation in due process complaint hearings for the parents of a student who may be eligible for special education services and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Education.
House Bill 1192, Representative Weissman, Senators Gonzalez and Rodriguez, concerning the creation of additional protections in the Consumer Code.
Judiciary. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by the senator from Woodland Park.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will proceed out of order. Senator Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we have two honored guests here with us this morning. Eagle Scouts, two young gentlemen from Senator Smallwood's district in Douglas County who just achieved their Eagle Scout status. They are over here to your right. First is Grant Reimer, visited here with his family members, Joycelyn, Eric and Jason Reimer, and Margie Hussman. Grant's dad is a police officer. His mother is a victim's advocate. Grant's project for his Eagle Scout was a little free library in his neighborhood. Also, Austin Martins. Austin is joined by his family members, Paul, Christine, and Isabella Martins, and Bruce and Wendy Fuller. Austin's dad is a police officer. His mother is a teacher. Austin's project was Buddy Bench for a school in Aurora to help reduce bullying. I would invite members to welcome and congratulate new Eagle Scouts Grant Reimer and Austin Martins. Thank you, Mr. President.
Minority Leader Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Am I asking for a moment of personal privilege?
I'm not sure.
I am.
Granted.
Thank you. Exactly. I'm just clarifying the rules in my mind. I would like to also rise in support and acknowledge the Eagle Scouts we have with us today. I stand before you an Eagle Scout. The Scouts' law, as you all know or have heard at one point in your life, is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Now, I'd ask the Eagle Scouts to stand again so that you can all observe. They're wearing sashes, and on the sashes are what are commonly called merit badges. For you as legislators, I can tell you, having done the work to earn a similar number of merit badges myself, each one of those merit badges is the equivalent, or roughly the equivalent, of passing a fairly controversial piece of legislation. It takes an enormous amount of time and effort and skill to attain these merit badges, and you have to attain many of them, develop a broad portfolio of expertise across an array of societally beneficial matters in order to attain these merit badges. The Eagle Scout is the highest rank available in scouting, and to attain and earn the Eagle Scout is an incredible honor. Many of the military academies, when they're looking for future leaders, will consider the rank of Eagle Scout on a resume to be one of the most important indicators of potential future success. I add my voice in reinforcement to the acknowledgement of these two young men, and also, were there three? To these two young men and to others who attain the rank of Eagle Scout in scouting in America today. Thank you, colleagues, for listening, and again, congratulations, gentlemen.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate continue to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by La Senadora de Denver.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will proceed out of order. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'd like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I want to take a moment to acknowledge some very special guests that we have joining us today here on the Senate floor. We have some of the young women from Florence Crittenden High School, which is in my district, visiting with us here today for their day at the Capitol. I want to invite you all to please stand. Órale. Florence Crittenden Services' mission is to educate, prepare, and empower teen mothers and their children to break the cycle of poverty for 2 generations through education, health and wellness, and economic and social asset building. This 2-generation model more than doubles the national high school graduation rate of teen mothers and ensures that their kiddos are kindergarten ready. We are fortunate to have these incredible young people visiting the Capitol today. Y'all, we may have had a late night here at the Capitol and an early morning, but these women are working to balance school with raising children, and they show us time and time again their strength and their resiliency and how they show up to get things done. They're hosting a conversation with legislators today in Senate Committee Room 354 at 11:30. And so I hope that we all have a moment to stop by and meet these wonderful young women. Colleagues, please join me in welcoming the students of Florence Crittenden.
Senator Kolker.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have a moment of personal privilege?
Granted.
I just want to add on to the good senator from Denver's comments. I started a group in 2015 called 100 Men Who Care. We're a group of men who get together every quarter to learn about local nonprofits. And this last quarter, we made our $100 donation per person. So we try to get 100 people together every quarter. We write a check for $100 from each member. And this last quarter of last year was Florence Christian Services. So please check them out. They're a great organization. Thank you.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate continue to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege and tribute presentation by the senator from Westminster.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will proceed out of order. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Today, I am excited to welcome the Chronic Care Collaborative and the Colorado Cancer Coalition to the Capitol. The members, the Chronic Care Collaborative and the Colorado Cancer Coalition in Colorado, approximately 62% of adults live with a chronic condition. Ethnic minorities and impoverished communities experience especially high rates of chronic disease. Cancer in particular is pernicious, tends to tell all of us 30,000 Colorados will be diagnosed with cancer this year, and almost 9,000 of those individuals will die. End-of-life care plays an increasingly important role in society. Healthcare directives ensure that patients get the kind of care they wish for and eliminates the potential for conflicts and improves the patient's end-of-life experience. Chronic conditions can and do affect individuals across every age, socioeconomic status, race, political affiliation, and more. And so please, they all have necklaces on today with some beads. Talk to them about their condition. Talk to them about the loved ones with different conditions, because we all know, love, or are someone living with a chronic condition. And we're down here to work to make their experience and their lives better, and they're here to tell their stories today, so please take the time to learn. Thank you so much.
Third reading of bills, final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1011?
House Bill 1011, Representatives Titone and Weinberg, Senators Hinrichsen and Marchman, concerning a requirement that an agricultural equipment manufacturer facilitate the repair of its equipment by providing certain other persons with the resources needed to repair the manufacturer's agricultural equipment.
Senator Hinrichsen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request permission to offer a third reading amendment. And I move the bill on third reading and final passage.
The bill has been moved, and there is a third reading amendment at the desk. Senator Hinrichsen, will you please explain the reason for a third reading amendment?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. President. So when we accepted amendments yesterday, we had 3 amendments that were prepared and 2 others that were accepted on this bill. Those amendments overlaid a little bit with some of the other amendments that were accepted. So what this amendment does is it simply tidies up the language. It eliminates places where the language is exactly duplicative. And perhaps most importantly, we misspelled embedded in a couple of places. And as the son of an English teacher, Mom, I'm sorry.
The old cleanup amendment. The question before the body is Senator Henriksen's request for permission to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and permission is granted. Will the clerk please read Amendment L32?
Amendment L032 by Senator Hinrichsen, amend revised mill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Amendment L32 and ask for your support.
Any discussion on L32? Seeing none, the motion is for the adoption of L32 to House Bill 1011. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, L32 is adopted. To the bill. Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I renew my motion to move L32 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
That is
Or
House Bill 1011.
1011.
Yep. We got it. Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through some of the amendments and discussion yesterday, there may have been a misunderstanding that John Deere and Case International were supportive of this bill. As we know, there's 25 different legislators debating this very bill or this topic. And I just wanted to make it clear and on the record that Case IH and John Deere are still opposed to this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1011. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Will, Baisley, Gardner, Minority Leader Lundin, Liston, Pelton R., Simpson. With a vote of 25 ayes, 8 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1011 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Bridges, Jaquez Lewis, Rodriguez, Majority Leader Moreno, Danielson, Cutter. Please add the President. General orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion is adopted and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Danielson will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Ms. Cole, please read the title of all the bills on the general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
House Bill 1137, Representatives Lucan and Valdez, Senators Hansen and Roberts, concerning measures to stabilize net metering credits calculated for an electric retail utilities purchase of electric output from a community solar garden. House Bill 1156, Representatives Taggart and Young, Senators Kolker and Pelton R., concerning modernization of the Public Airport Authority Act. House Bill 1172, Representative Parenti, Senator Jaquez Lewis, concerning changes to child welfare proceedings.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for the adoption of all the bills on the second reading consent calendar, which includes House Bills 1137, 1156, and 1172. There are no committee reports.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar? The motion before the body is the adoption of all the bills on the consent calendar. Are there any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bills 1137, 1156, and 1172 pass on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bills 1137, 1156, 1172 passed on second reading in order to revise and place on the calendar for third reading and final passage. General orders. Second reading of bills. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the general orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Danielson will take the chair.
Morning again, colleagues. The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the committee proceed out of order for the consideration of House Bill 1001.
Ms. Cole, please read the title of House Bill 1001.
House Bill 1001, Representatives Kipp and McLaughlin, Senator Zenzinger, concerning expanding financial assistance for educator programs.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1001 and the committee report.
To the committee report.
We made 2 amendments in committee where we added a particular group of educators who were left out, and then also we only made 1 amendment. I take that back. That's all we did.
Is there further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the motion before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, last year we approved of a bill that helped with educator preparation during the pandemic. We, this year, are working on expanding the pool of educators who are eligible to take advantage of that program, and that is what House Bill 1001 does, and I ask for your aye vote.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1001? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1001. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1001 is adopted. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the committee proceed out of order for the consideration of House Bill 1037.
The motion is to proceed out of order to take up House Bill 1037. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We will hear House Bill 1037. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I move House Bill 1037 and the associated Judiciary Committee report.
Thank you, Senator Gonzalez. Will the clerk please read the title of House Bill 1037?
My bad.
House Bill 1037, Representative Martinez and Pugliese, Senator Gonzalez, concerning awarding earned time to nonviolent offenders who complete an accredited higher education program.
Thank you so much. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now I move the bill and the associated Judiciary Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We made an amendment in the Judiciary Committee to ensure that any savings related to the bill actually go towards the Department of Higher Education, and we also ensured that 6 institutions would be able to partake in this bill. I ask for an aye vote on the Judiciary Committee report.
Is there further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. To the bill. Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1037. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1037 is adopted. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1093 to Monday, March 20th.
The motion is to I'm sorry, what was the bill number?
1093.
Thank you. The motion before us is to lay over House Bill 1093 until March 20th. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1093 will be laid over at the Majority Leader's request. Ms. Cole, please read the title of House Bill 1030.
House Bill 1030, Representatives Serrata and Soper, Senator Henriksen, concerning a prohibition against requiring compensation to a healthcare staffing agency if a contracted healthcare facility hires the healthcare staffing agency's employee as a permanent employee of the healthcare facility.
Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1030 and the corresponding Business, Labor, and Technology Committee report.
To the committee report.
The committee sent the bill here for further discussion.
Is there further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill comes out of a problem that we've been having throughout the state, and it's one that's exacerbated in rural areas and one that is also exacerbated in facilities that are heavily dependent on Medicare reimbursements. And that is a staffing shortage of our healthcare professionals. Going into the pandemic and then since then, the labor market has become quite concentrated for several healthcare professionals by staffing agencies. And while staffing agencies are an incredibly important partner with our healthcare facilities, we've reached a point where there is an asymmetric market power in favor of the staffing agencies. We see that when an employee wants to leave a temp agency to go work full-time at a staffing agency, there are fees and penalties on that healthcare facility if they hire on that employee. And so it becomes a barrier to the labor market, particularly for employees, but also for healthcare facilities, and this bill removes that barrier.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I rise in support of this bill. This is a continuation of a bill that we passed last year that I did with the good senator from Weld County, who is no longer with us. In the chamber, he's with us on this earth, Senator Cook. Last year, we identified the problem and we said we need to learn more about the potential gouging that is taking place with these staffing agencies with regard to, in particular, our nursing homes, our skilled facilities, and our Medicaid agencies, quite frankly. And so I appreciate the work that this bill is doing because it's taking that information that we put together and it's now taking the next step forward. And so I just want to thank the sponsors for this and for continuing to work on what we perceived as a problem last year. And now that we have the data, we can confirm that it is a problem, and here is one possible solution. So I would just like to say thank you to the sponsors and encourage an aye vote.
There's an amendment at the desk.
Amendment L004 by Senator Henriksen, amend Ray and Gross Bill, page 2, line 10.
Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Amendment L04, what it does is, and actually, Madam Chair, I move Amendment L04.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what L04 does is it says that none of the policy that we're considering today would apply until after 30 days after an employee was placed in a healthcare facility. There are different models that staffing agencies use. One of those models is a direct placement hire. That's where they go find someone, recruit someone, and they put them in the facility for hire. And if you are hiring someone off at such a short time frame, that's the appropriate, I think, mechanism to go through, and this amendment protects that for the staffing agencies. So I ask for an aye vote on L04.
Is there further discussion on amendment? Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to, this is a good bill, as my good colleague, Senator from Arvada said. This bill and the work that's been done has probably been 2-3 years that I've heard about this problem, and I really appreciate what the senator from Arvada did last year and what the good senator from Pueblo did this year. But just want to let everybody know, this bill came out of committee with some concerns, and I appreciate the sponsors' work on coming up with some kind of amendment. It may not be what everybody wants, but I think it does address some of the concerns raised. A lot of this was not brought up until the committee, and I think this was a good compromise, and I appreciate the senator's work.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I too would like to ask for your aye vote in favor of this amendment. This is a pretty tricky issue, and so I think that the actors are coming together, trying to work with one another in order to find the right pathway, and so I would ask for you to support this amendment.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L004? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L004. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment L004 is adopted. To the bill. Senator Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I was on the, in the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee where we heard this bill. Staffing agencies, they support many industries, and this is a law that would be put in place to regulate the charging, how they charge in this one particular industry of healthcare. I believe this to be an inappropriate use of the force of government, injecting ourselves into an industry that has its own ecosystem. They can contractually, the healthcare industry can contractually negotiate with the staffing organizations or not use them at all. But I believe that this is an overreach by government, and I therefore ask for a no vote on House Bill 1030.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1030? Senator Buckner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the bill sponsors for the hard work that they provided on this bill. I have talked to several constituents about this bill, and they own staffing agencies, and they're really worried about how their businesses are going to be affected by this bill. Because staffing firms who place temporary staff in healthcare facilities need some assurance that their vested employees can be directly hired away with no compensation to the staffing agency who placed them under a contractual agreement. We've heard anecdotally from states that have passed similar legislation that some nurse staffing firms who have seen employees converted quickly are choosing not to work with those facilities, which is affecting their ability to get temporary help and causing them staffing issues. We know that conversion fees vary. We also know that this has not worked in some of the other states. I was going to run an amendment, but after talking to the bill sponsor and some of the stakeholders, I have decided not to run that amendment. I still am not in favor of this bill, though. The other thing that is bothering me is international exceptions. The international staffing model has provided Colorado healthcare facilities with the ability to stabilize turnover in units, increase patient satisfaction, improve safety, and improve morale of existing client staff, which is increasingly important as the demand for healthcare has never been higher, thanks to a growing and aging population. At the same time, staffing has never been so strained. House Bill 23-1030 is well-intentioned, but ultimately the members and their foreign educated health professionals are an unintended consequence. This proposition will imperil patient care in Colorado by catastrophically disrupting the business of ethical international healthcare recruitment and placement. This proposed legislation prohibits a staffing agency from lawfully executing its contractual agreements that protect the enormous investments it makes in the healthcare industry and professionals it places. The intention of this bill was to deal with temporary placements in healthcare facilities. Temporary is not really defined. Due to this issue, members will not be able to place in Colorado as there is no legal protection provided. This would mean international recruitment firms that bankroll foreign educated healthcare professionals, complicated immigration process, and act as expert facilitators have no legal protection. In fact, this provides for liability. Put simply, this means members will not place foreign educated healthcare professionals in Colorado. Foreign educated healthcare professionals that could be treating patients in rural health systems across Colorado would instead go to other states. The issues the sponsor raised, staffing shortage, lack of consistent care, are exacerbated, not helped. Rural areas are less desirable. Our members often place in rural areas. As I said before, I know that this bill is well-intentioned, but the staffing agencies that I have talked to are not in favor of this bill. So I just wanted to give my say, and for those constituents who are listening in, I want you to know that I was going to place some amendments on this bill, but I am not. But I wanted you all to know what some of the issues are with this bill. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1030? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1030. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1030 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title of Senate Bill 38?
Senate Bill 38 by Senator Jaquez Lewis and Representative Garcia concerning a prohibition on slaughtering equines for human consumption.
Senator Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 38 and the associated Ag Committee report.
To the committee report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. In committee, we had two amendments that were addressing transportation and the vehicle, the type of horse trailer that the horses would be transported in. We did have some issues with that report, so I will be presenting an amendment that we hope will address some of those issues.
Is there further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. There's an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L010?
Amendment L010 by Senator Jaquez Lewis, amend the Agriculture and Natural Resources
Senator
Committee report.
Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L010 to Senate Bill 38.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The amendments that we unintentionally had put on in committee actually ended up condoning the transport of horses for slaughter, and therefore it actually puts it in state statute. This amends that to talk about exporting instead of transporting, and this actually can help make sure that we identify the kill buyers. What happens, colleagues, is the kill buyers go to the horse auctions and they outbid the families and the folks that really want to adopt these horses and take them home. So this language actually removes sellers from the bill, and it actually lessens some of the fines. So we believe this is a meeting of the minds and can better get to our ultimate goal, which is to stop the kill buyers that are actually hurting these beautiful animals.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L010? Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I rise in opposition to L010 and encourage a no vote. This bill was a long process in the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee, and I thank the sponsor for working with us on an amendment. The committee report was a strike below. We all agreed, working with the agriculture community, with the other involved stakeholders on that strike below. It was my understanding that in order to move the bill out of committee, that the strike below was the agreement, and L010 significantly alters the strike below. While the sponsor notes that it makes some changes to better in line with the intent of the original bill, it does fundamentally change the agreement of the strike below. The strike below changed the bill so that it was about transportation standards for horses. That was always the original intent, is my understanding of the advocates behind this bill, is to improve transportation standards for horses as they travel through Colorado, for whatever reason. And that is what the strike below did. It put in transportation standards and conditions that when you're transporting a large number of horses, you need to meet these minimum requirements in order to ensure that the horses are humanely treated while they're traveling. That is what we can do in the state of Colorado. Just to be clear, so we're all knowing what this debate is about, there is not horse slaughter happening in Colorado. There's not horse slaughter happening in the United States. It happens in other countries. And the intent to try to prohibit something that happens in Mexico or in Canada through a state law in Colorado isn't realistic. And we cannot prevent actions that happen in other countries, let alone other states. So that is why we worked on a transportation bill, that when you're in the confines of the state of Colorado, you need to meet these minimum standards for transporting horses. So I object to the process and the agreement that we made in the strike below by trying to change it in L010. The strike below and the amendments in committee also narrowed the title to the intent of what the new bill was under the strike below. L010 on the very last line, page 2, line 5, strikes that change in the title. Goes back to the original title of the bill. Just wanted to make members aware of that. The other parts of the amendment that I object to is that we are putting into state law things that are unprovable by district attorneys who will be in charge of enforcing this law. And it will put a chilling effect on honest horse owners in Colorado who need to find a way to find a new home for their horses when they are sick or when they cannot afford to take care of them anymore. This chilling effect will likely cause, I believe, horses to suffer more in Colorado because people who own horses will be afraid to transport them or move them across state lines in fear of violating this law. L010 is a significant step backwards, I believe, for honest horse owners in Colorado, and it is against the agreement that was made in the Agricultural and Natural Resources Committee and asked for a no vote.
Senator Hawkins Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I really want to thank the good senator from Avon. We've had some pretty amazing discussions along the way. We both learned a ton as we've explored this issue. I think the thing that neither of us knew is that by adopting those last-minute amendments in committee, it would actually condone the more slaughter of horses. And what we learned is that the kill buyers are very identifiable. There's just a handful of them. And so the advocates that came in and spoke about the bill said, we know who the kill buyers are. If you give us the ability to call Highway Patrol, we can stop this. So I actually ended up talking to Mike Hahn at the State Patrol, and they actually said this bill is enforceable. And I appreciate the good senator from Avon pointing that out. Is this going to be enforceable? The answer is yes, it will be. There's a second enforcement mechanism. We actually spoke with the Bureau of Animal Protection, and they work hand in hand with the State Patrol if there is an issue about animals. And the senator from Avon brought up a really very important point that we think has caused some of the opposition to this bill to occur, is what about the regular folks that have horses and they don't want to take them to auction? Well, we had some folks step up during committee, and they actually testified. The founder of the Wild Animal Sanctuary testified that they now have a total of over 32,000 acres for these horses to go to. They have their own equipment to haul the horses there. They have veterinarians on site. So now we have established through this bill a place where these horses can go. So we believe we've addressed the issues that were causing some uncomfortableness, which is enforceability and where do the horses go.
Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, too, rise in opposition of this amendment. I want to go back and sort of give a short history of how we got here. Horse slaughter, commercial horse slaughter for human consumption does not happen in Colorado. It does not happen in the United States of America. It has not for 20 years when the U.S. Department of Agriculture stopped funding the inspection and licensure of horse slaughter facilities. What happens is we export horses that are slaughtered for human consumption to Mexico and to Canada, and overwhelmingly to Mexico. About 20,000 to 170,000 horses per year go to Mexico. Anywhere from 5 to 40,000 per year go to Canada. There's extraordinary fluctuation, as you can tell with that. That fluctuation tends to follow what our economy is doing. In times of recession, it is more, and in times of prosperity, that export is less. The meat does not come back to the United States, ever. It goes to Europe, it goes to other Central American countries, and it goes to certain countries in Asia. In some places, the meat is cheaper than other meat. And so we have anywhere from 600,000 to 1 million horses per year are sold at sale barn auctions. And so what we're looking at here is a representation of anywhere from 10 to 20% approximately of these horses sold at auction, which is not an insignificant market share of these auction barns. And the concern that I have had all along, and talking with members of my agricultural community in my district, is that there is not a legitimate way to deal with a horse that can no longer be afforded or that is no longer, really no longer needed without these auction houses remaining profitable. And so if we were to successfully remove all of the horses being exported, then we jeopardize the business model of these auction houses. And what will have happen is that horses will meet their fate in more inhumane ways here in the United States and here in Colorado, because there is no way for farmers or for individuals who can no longer afford to take care of their horses to sell them or otherwise dispose of them in a humane way. And there are laws in place in Mexico to deal with the ethical treatment of horses that are awaiting slaughter. Those laws are not properly enforced. We have international agreements with Mexico about those laws being enforced that we are not enforcing, and I agree that both of those are problematic. But in discussions of this bill with my ag community and with the members of this committee and with the sponsors, what was agreed upon was that one thing that we could all support without harming the ag industry at large is that standards that are in place in law for the ethical transportation of horses that are being exported for slaughter should be enforced. And the U.S. Department of Transportation is not adequately doing that. And so what we came up with is the strike below that allows the state to enforce that here in Colorado. That was what was agreed upon. That was what passed out of committee on a 4-3 vote. And this amendment undoes all of that agreement and takes it back to a bill that would unquestionably hurt our ag community. I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, this bill has been thoroughly debated and thoroughly discussed. I sit on the Ag Committee as well. And I applaud the sponsor, and I also applaud the chair for working on it, working on the issue. I supported the bill as it came out with the amendment because, and I still believe, it gave the tools not only to law enforcement, but if you understand the economics of what that amendment did, it dissuaded these buyers from buying on the economics of being able to transport legally, going right to their margins. And what I would assume would be they would move on, they would start going to other states or whatnot. But the sponsor made a really great point to me and brought me this amendment. And we looked at the title, and she pointed out a court case that if this bill were to pass as it came out of committee, the courts would look at it and they would say, well, the state of Colorado sanctions that per your title, per your bill. We're dismissing this case. So the sponsor and the proponents of this bill, in my opinion, have a point. I read through the amendment and how it fits with the current bill, and I still see a path where this amendment will dissuade these buyers. It won't hit them in the pocketbook as, in my opinion, the bill that came out of the committee would have, but there are still many safeguards and there are still outlets for these horses to be purchased through the process. It's really well worded. I would highly encourage you to read through L010. So with that, I will be a yes on the amendment and a yes on the bill on seconds and thirds.
Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the sponsor, who I've worked with quite often on some of these issues, and appreciate her perspective. And she knows I don't agree with her on this particular policy. But look, I rise in opposition to the amendment. In hearing in committee both the bill and the strike below, I don't think there was any ambiguity at all and certain clarity around the strike below, and the committee report recognizes that a person shall not transport more than 20 equines in a vehicle to slaughter for human consumption unless it meets a certain set of criteria. There was nothing from my perspective that gave cause for question or concern. There was a window there for folks to transport equine for slaughter for human consumption. There wasn't anything vague or uncertain about it. It was very clear. I rise in opposition to Amendment 010.
Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in opposition of L010. I was not in committee. I had somebody sub for me, but when I was reading this, it really frustrates me about how we're putting things in statutes that are unenforceable. Like C, on C here, it says exports equine meat from the state, and the person knows or reasonably should know that the meat will be used for human consumption. I don't see a district attorney in the state trying to make that case. I don't see anybody, our law enforcement, trying to figure out where those horses are going. I don't think this is a good amendment, and I rise and I ask for you to no vote on L010.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L010? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L010. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. To the bill, Senator Hawkes Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to close, as we discuss this bill, with a really enlightening article that was shared with us by an investigative reporter. There's a quote from one of the biggest kill buyers in the state, and I'll say his name because he's been all over the news, saying that, his name is Jason Fabricius, that if this bill passes, he will have to basically stop what he's doing. He'll have to move. So that is the goal of the bill, is to stop the kill buyers, because when they take the horses and cram them in these trailers, it is very, very abusive. We can stop that with this bill. It is enforceable. The State Patrol has said they will help us. The Bureau of Animal Protection has said they will help us. So please, colleagues, let's put an end, let's put it out to pasture, let's save these animals, and let's pass Senate Bill 38. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank the good senator from Longmont for her work on this issue and her passion for this issue. I am rising in opposition now to this bill and in strong opposition now that the amendment has been put on the bill. And I just want to be clear for the record, and I think I share this opinion with every single person in this chamber. I am not in favor of horse slaughter for human consumption. Nobody is. But it's not happening in Colorado. It's not happening in the United States. What we're trying to do in this bill, especially as amended, is to police actions that are happening in Mexico and Canada. We can't do that with a Colorado state legislature bill. We can't. In fact, what we're doing is putting things in law that are going to harm Coloradans because they are going to think that they might break the law when they do honest behavior with their own horses. The senator from Longmont brought up that the point is to try to stop the kill buyers, and I think that's a noble goal. That's what the underlying strike below did. It gave tools to our state patrol to police transportation standards. They have jurisdiction over our roads, they have jurisdictions over the people who use the roads, and it gave them clear things to follow when transportation of a large amount of horses was happening. What we're doing in this bill as amended is putting in language that would put the burden on district attorneys to enforce things that are completely unenforceable in criminal law. You are going to have to, they could prosecute somebody if they thought that their horse could have ever been slaughtered for human consumption, if they were transporting it across state lines. What that means is somebody who needs to get their horse to a friend in Kansas or in New Mexico or elsewhere in the United States because they can't afford to care for their horse anymore, or they're trying to move it for whatever reason, they are going to be fearful of even moving that horse across state lines because they could violate this state law. As a former prosecutor, I don't think any DA will ever take up any of these cases. In fact, we're making the laws so complicated and convoluted that I think it actually will create a disincentive for law enforcement to even be involved in this space at all. Could hurt the sponsor's intent even more. But we heard unanimous opposition from the agriculture community on this bill, and that's where I would like to end this. As the chair of the Agriculture Committee, we heard from all sides of this conversation. Groups that normally are willing to work on animal rights legislation more than others, everybody was opposed because of the chilling effect that this will have on honest horse owners in our state. And I will say again, I'm not in favor of horse slaughter, not in favor of human consumption of horse meat, but that's not what this bill is about. We are creating unenforceable laws that will put a chilling effect on honest Coloradans, and I strongly ask for a no vote.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also was remiss in adding when I was up here earlier on this bill. Testimony was such that veterinarians do not consider horses fit for human consumption because of the types of medicines they give most horses. And so another argument for this bill is we owe it to our cousins across the border to not, or to minimize and dissuade the fact that they may be knowingly or unknowingly eating something that's not fit for human consumption. I think with the amendment, the bill still accomplishes that fact, and I'm proud to support it.
Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, if we pass this bill as it now is, we are setting a bad precedent. We worked at extraordinary length in the Ag and Natural Resources Committee to get this bill to a place where I'm speaking on behalf of my colleagues on my side of the aisle, we're comfortable that it did not harm our farmers, it did not harm our communities, and that it did an enforceable amount of good. And I was happy with what we did there. What we did there does get at the unethical treatment of horses when they are being transported for slaughter, and I'm proud of that work. But what we just did is essentially undid all of that work to bring it back to almost exactly the original bill that never would have passed out of committee. And I get that bills get amended, they get changed at every step of the process. But the purpose of the crafting of legislation is not to make whatever changes are necessary to get a bill through committee and then undo those changes writ large to bypass the committee that represents the communities of our state that committee is there to serve. We talk often in this body about the shifting nature of our state, about the ag community. We talk about our cities. I happen to represent both. I represent an ag community out in rural Pueblo County, and I represent a small city of Pueblo itself. And it hurts me to see the disconnect that we have, because I believe there is so much beauty in this state, in our cities, in our communities, in our wide open spaces, and I believe that more often than not, the friction between us comes from a simple misunderstanding. What we're doing here is completely turning a blind eye to the ag community in Colorado and thumbing our noses at them. I strongly ask for a no vote.
Senator Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I'll offer again a bit of a personal perspective. I'm sure many of you have been around and grew up with horses. Thinking about me and my experience, my first recollections of my grandfather's paint horse, Rocky, who was struck down by lightning in the pasture. But he had a series of horses after that, sorrel mare, Goldie. And he was more passionate about horses than I have ever been. Usually for me, being around horses equates to something bad happening to me. Bucked off, stepped on, kicked, you name it. Goldie had another sorrel mare, Penny. He kept her for a long time. Penny had a Palomino mare, Nugget, which was my sister's horse that she rode competitively, that lived 25 years. That's the last horse I was around. And look, I live in a very unique set of circumstances where we have access to, 2,500 acres. We have access to backhoe. We have access to a loader. We have the ability to humanely put down our horse when it's required. But I'll share the other end of that spectrum are a number of my constituents that aren't afforded those same kind of opportunities. And if you run legislation that puts them at risk or diminish the marketplace to go with a horse that they can no longer take care of, I'm also uniquely in a spot where they have the ability to just turn the horse loose. That's not good for anybody. The horse, the environment, the riparian areas along the Rio Grande, it's problematic for people to turn horses loose. My dad and I both have constituents, friends that we supply feed at no cost to, because the folks can't afford to feed their horse. That's 3 to 4 tons of hay a year at $300 a ton. If we were to stop providing feed for that horse, that owner needs the ability to be able to take his horse to auction and have it go at a fair market price. And unfortunately, some of those buyers historically have been kill buyers. But the alternative is that the horse either starves to death on the property or gets turned loose. We just need to be thoughtful about what is the remedy if we're going to sanction or eliminate the kill buyers. What's the alternative? And trying to create preserves for horses, places to go, is admirable. But look, those aren't regulated either. They're not all well above standard for caring for horses. There's just areas of opportunity that create challenges, I think, in this space. As the chair of the Ag Committee and the good senator from Avon pointed out, I'm not an advocate of slaughtering horses for human consumption at all either. Doesn't fit in my forte, in my diet anywhere. And look, I'll also highlight there is federal standards as well. Mr. Fabricius, that the good senator from Loveland highlighted, was actually just last year the recipient of an opinion assessing civil penalty against them. This was for violation of the Animal Health violation of federal standards, the Animal Health Protection Act, the Commercial Transportation of Equine for Slaughter Act. The assessment by the administrative law judge was $210,000. If that isn't enough to dissuade the company, the kill buyer, from operating in Colorado, I don't think legislation we're going to offer will dissuade them at all. The number of horses, I don't exactly know how many horses we're even talking about in Colorado. I believe it's a few hundred. Nationally, the number of horses that have been exported for slaughter have been on a perpetual decline. To the last number I saw was about 20,000 a year total now. In years past, it was as high as 100,000. So that market forces are going to drive this completely out of business. Federal government standards and or existing legislation will resolve the problem. There's still a problem of how do I help my constituents in that space where they can't care for a horse anymore. And for those reasons, Madam Chair, I ask for the body to please be opposed to Senate Bill 38. Thank you.
Senator Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to come up and I am in strong opposition of this bill, and I want to thank the sponsor for her passion, and I appreciate that passion and her caring for equines. But I have to say, there's probably no one here that loves horses more than I do, and I also say that I'm probably very likely I own more horses and mules than anyone else in the chamber or anyone else in the lower chamber. Horses have been a part of my life and my entire life from a kid on. And you know, I'd love to share with any of you my pictures I have with my grandkids. They're all horse people. They love to ride. They like to hunt. They like to trail ride. If it's with a horse, they want to do it. And I've seen the mistreatment of our equine friends when we don't have an outlet for them, when people can no longer afford or care for them. I know of our way, they get turned out on public land, and many times very poor condition and nothing to eat, no water. If there is water, it's all froze up. But I just want to say that what I want to convey is that our equine friends, I have a strong affection to them and affiliation with our equine friends. Some of my colleagues tease me about mules, but I have to say that there's an old saying that people like mules because they can't afford a good horse and they're too proud to ride a cow. And that may be my situation. But I'll also say from a standpoint of our equine friends, you know, our 2 feet move our body, 4 feet move your soul. There's no question. There's nothing better for the inside of a person than the outside of a horse. So I get to understand and I get the compassion, but I can tell you that I'm strongly opposed to this bill. I think it does nothing to serve horse owners. It does nothing to serve our equine friends. So I'll be a strong no on this bill. Thank you.
Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm too another one of those ranchers that has horses. Those horses created a bond between my wife and our daughters that is irreplaceable. I could have bought saddles a whole lot cheaper than what it cost me for that pickup and all the fuel that I put into those barrel races they went to. But they won saddles and they spent hundreds of hours one-on-one with each other. Horses teach us great lessons in life. They teach us that when the weather's bad, we go take care of them before we take care of ourselves, because they can't take care of themselves. There's already federal statutes in place to do a lot of what this bill is going after. I bought a horse one time at a horse sale, which, first mistake. That horse was one of the most beautiful horses I ever saw. Calm, gentle. Got it home, and 2 days later, my wife walked in the corral, and it just reached out and smacked her on the face. That horse had been drugged. That horse needed to be transported and slaughtered. We don't need people getting hurt in those kind of situations, and sometimes that's the most humane thing you can do. The other thing this bill's doing is taking the kill buyers out of the market. We in agriculture run on such slim margins, we need every advantage we can get, and sometimes that's that little extra money your horse brings at the auction. Taking them out of the equation will hurt the bottom line of my ag producers. I don't sell a horse unless it's dangerous like the one I told you about. Otherwise, we've got several graves out in our pasture with horses in it. So with what it'll do to the ag producers and what another bill that is getting this building in the way, and I cannot stand to vote for a bill like that, so I urge strong opposition and a no vote.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 38? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 38. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 38 is adopted. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I request a senatorial 5.
The Senate will stand in a senatorial 5. We're going to come. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 109 to tomorrow, Friday, March 17th.
The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 109 till March 17th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 109 will be laid over at the Majority Leader's request. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I request a senatorial 5.
The Senate will stand in a senatorial 5. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please add Senator Smallwood to the roll? Thanks for joining us. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Ms. Cole, please read the report.
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 38 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1001 is amended, 1037 is amended, 1030 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 109 laid over until March 17, 2023, and retaining its place on the calendar. House Bill 1093 laid over until March 20, 2023, and retaining its place on the calendar.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Cow Amendment 2?
Cow Amendment
Senator
002.
Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cow Amendment 002.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to show that Senate Bill 23038 as amended did not pass and ask for an aye vote.
Further discussion. Senator Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I urge a no vote on this cow amendment. This bill needs to proceed forward so that we can stop the kill buyers who are slaughtering horses.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, with great respect to the good senator from Longmont, I ask for an aye vote on this cow amendment. For those of you that weren't in the chamber, there was a lot going on, just to orient where we are. Out of the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee, there was a compromise struck between the sponsor, the agriculture community, and the members of the committee on a strike below that proceeded to the floor. Today, the strike below was adopted, and then L010 was put on the bill, which brings it back to a place that raised all of the objections from the agriculture community, and I believe from many people who have good intentions of preventing the mistreatment of horses, something I think we all share. And I did share during second reading that the slaughter of horses for human consumption is not happening in Colorado. It's not happening anywhere in the United States. It's happening in Mexico and in Canada. And the way that this bill is now written is we are trying to police actions that are happening not only in other states, but in other countries. And by putting these words into law about the transport of horses across state lines or transport of horses at all is going to put a chilling effect on honest horse owners in Colorado who need to find ways to move their horses around this state. We can prevent the mistreatment of horses by when they are transported through Colorado. That's what the strike below did. But the sponsor added an amendment that changes that strike below significantly from the deal that was made in committee. And I believe this bill will be more harmful to horses and more harmful to Coloradans if it passes as amended. So I ask for an aye vote on the cow amendment.
Senator Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. The strike below that was put in committee actually made it would condone the inhumane treatment of horses in these trailers. So while you can say that we can't stop what is happening in Mexico, we can stop what the kill buyers are doing in these trailers. These horses are being crammed in these very large trailers where they hurt themselves. Several of them die on each trip. This is inhumane, colleagues. We can stop this by passing this bill. One of the kill buyers said very clearly in an interview, and I can show you the documentation, if this bill passes, he will have to move and stop what he is doing. We can debate this, you know, I'm sure leadership would not be happy with me for saying this. We could debate this all day long about what the intent was of an amendment here or language here. If this bill passes, we can stop this horrible treatment of horses. So I'm asking you to please keep this bill going forward by voting no on this cow amendment.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, I sit on the Ag Committee, and I was not aware of any deal that the bill would come out and the wording in the bill would never change through the rest of the process. I voted for the bill with the amendment because, as I spoke earlier, it would dissuade kill buyers on the economics. The sponsor then pointed out to me that there was a problem with a court case, and she even had a title issue. If you look at the title of the bill as it came out of committee, it specifically said 20 or less. That was a problem. So we had discussions of asking for late bill for a new bill, so on and so forth, but I am satisfied that the amendment solves the problem. There are a lot of forces down here on many bills that use process foul as a way to get what they want. I am here to call bullshit on that. It is the Ag Committee.
Senator Priola.
I'm speaking
Please.
about ag issues, Mr. President. This bill is about public health and safety. The testimony was that consumption of this meat is not good for human consumption. Do we care about our cousins across the border? This bill will solve the problem. I ask for a no vote on the cow.
Senator Priola will be fined $5 for using profanity in the well. Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the article where the Fabricius brothers talked about that this would put an end to their operations as they know it came out with the amendment that what we had amended would get at the truly unethical treatment that is happening without harming our agricultural community. There's a whole long list I could go on all day about this bill and why what we just did is bad for the ag community. But what I want to focus on is that process. Because I get that things are amended throughout the process, from one committee to another, from one chamber to the next. Things change. It was never a grand deal that nothing would change in this bill. But there were discussions made and agreements made, amendments that were accepted on this bill that were then entirely erased. I'm deeply concerned about where we are going nationwide as we start to discard some of our norms of our institutions, our deliberative bodies, and our institutions of democracy. And what we are about to do with this bill today is say that the committee process can just be seen as a workaround, that the committee process doesn't matter. that it's salad dressing in the way to get to a broader policy objective. Whatever your feelings are on this bill as it's now amended, please stand with me in opposing the erosion of that norm of this body. I ask for an aye vote on the Cowell amendment.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, as you all know, I serve on the Ag Committee. I served on the Ag Committee for one day. I'll put that on my resume, you know. When they do the resolution for my eulogy, they'll have to say Senator Gardner served on the Ag Committee and the JBC, footnote, one time each. Seriously, now that I have your attention, members, this was the bill that was heard in Ag Committee that day. So it's fairly ingrained in my memory, unlike Judiciary, where I just can't even recall what time of night it was we got out. And I thought the bill, as it came in, and even as it amended, it has problems. And I voted no on the bill. The chair clearly had a process, I will call it a process understanding with the sponsors. And I shrugged when I left and thought, well, maybe that will improve it or not. But when we do that, as the senator from Pueblo points out, as others have pointed out, we bypass the process. And it's not simply a process failure, and so that's no big deal. Process drives substance in these debates. I mean, I'm driven to say to the senator from Henderson, that's horse hockey, but the fact is process does matter because it drives substance and it drives what we do here. There were clear understandings, and it was clear to me that there were understandings about how this bill would be treated when it came to the floor. And that's not what's happened. And it drives the substance of what is a bill that's now not, by any stretch of the imagination, a good bill. I urge an aye vote on this Committee of the Whole amendment.
Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. President. That was a very memorable day, having the small country lawyer on that committee. I really liked his expertise in the law side of this whole bill. But I want to get back to what the good senator from Pueblo said about the process. We debated that bill very thoroughly, and the committee came up with a resolution for that day to move forward to this chamber for seconds. And some of that's been sidestepped. So I renew the vote yes for the Cowell amendment. Let's do it right. Thank you.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are a lot of feelings about this bill. There are a lot of feelings about this process. It's my birthday week. And so I will just name that I'm actually spending a lot of time going back and, on your social media, how on your on your social media timelines, your memories pop up of what you were doing, I don't know, potentially this time 3 years ago. Let me remind this chamber that as the world was beginning to go into lockdown on a massive global pandemic, this chamber spent an incredible amount of time debating a bill to allow dogs on patios. Incredible amount of time. Process fouls and what does this mean for the future of this institution? While outside of this chamber, people were dying. I should have brought some pearls so I could clutch them. Vote your conscience on this bill. But regardless of what happens, there is much more for us to do and to debate that will have far deeper and greater impact on the citizens and the lives of the people in this state.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before the body is the adoption of Cow Amendment 2. Are there any no votes? Senators Exum, Coleman, Gonzalez, Colker, Majority Leader Moreno, Jaquez Lewis, Fields, Sullivan, Danielson, Cutter, Priola, Winter, Buckner. Please have the president. With a vote of 20 ayes, 14 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, that amendment passes. The motion before the body is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 38 as amended did not pass on second reading. House Bill 1001 is amended. House Bill 1037 is amended. House Bill 1030 is amended, passed on second reading, order revised. Placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 109 laid over until March 17th and retaining its place on the calendar. House Bill 1093 laid over until March 20th and retaining its place on the calendar. Consideration of governor's appointments, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all of the appointments listed on the consent calendar?
Member of the Board of Trustees of the Colorado School of Mines, effective January 1st, 2023, for a term expiring December 31st, 2026. Denise Burgess of Denver, Colorado, a Democrat, reappointed. Members of the State Board for Community Colleges and Occupational Education for a term expiring December 31st, 2025. Melanie Kruger of Thornton, Colorado, to serve as an unaffiliated from the 8th Congressional District, appointed for terms expiring December 31st, 2026. Landon Mascarenas of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a Democrat and a member from the 1st Congressional District, reappointed. Terrence Douglas McWilliams of Colorado Springs, Colorado, to serve as a Republican and member from the 5th Congressional District, reappointed. Executive Director of the Department of Corrections for a term expiring at the pleasure of the Governor. Moses Andre Stansel of Colorado Springs, Colorado, appointed.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of all the appointments on the consent calendar, which includes the member of the Board of Trustees of the Colorado School of Mines, the members of the State Board for Community Colleges and Occupational Education, and the Executive Director of the Department of Corrections.
Is there any discussion? The motion is the confirmation of all of the appointments on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, those appointments are confirmed. Message from the Governor.
August 11, 2022, to the Honorable Colorado Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the powers conferred upon me by the Constitution and laws of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to designate, appoint, reappoint, and submit to your consideration the following members of the Board of Trustees for the Colorado School for the Deaf and Blind for terms expiring July 1st, 2026. Ida Wilding of Colorado Springs, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the deaf community, appointed. Jessica Lee of Colorado Springs, appointed. Alan G. Ward of Poncha Springs, Colorado, reappointed. Sincerely, Jared Polis, Governor.
Signing of bills. Oh, sorry. Those appointments will be sent to the Education Committee.
March 10, 2023, to the Honorable Colorado Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the powers conferred upon me by the Constitution and laws of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to designate, appoint, reappoint, and submit to your consideration the following member of the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, effective March 14, 2023, for terms expiring March 13, 2027. Sergio Cordova of Littleton, Colorado, to serve as a representative of an employee association, reappointed. Daniel Ward of Centennial, Colorado, to serve as a majority owner of a business with 5 to 50 employees, reappointed. Geta Asfa of Highlands Ranch, Colorado, to serve as a majority owner of a business with more than 50 employees, appointed. Sincerely, Jared Polis, Governor.
Business, Labor, and Technology.
June 30th, 2022, to the Honorable Colorado Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the powers conferred upon me by the Constitution and the laws of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to designate, appoint, reappoint, and submit to your consideration the following members of the Colorado Commission on Higher Education for a term expiring July 1st, 2023. Sandra Gonzalez of Thornton, Colorado, to serve as a resident of the 8th Congressional District and an unaffiliated occasion by the resignation of Stephen Trujillo, appointed for a term expiring July 1st, 2026. Jennifer Walmer of Littleton, Colorado, to serve as a resident of the 6th Congressional District and a Democrat, appointed. Sincerely, Jared Polis, Governor.
Education. Signing of bills.
March 15, 2023, the President has signed Senate Joint Resolution 7, House Bill 1014, 1021, 1051, 1106, 1121, 1123, 1139, 1145, and House Joint Resolution 1018.
Announcements. Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. Good morning. This announcement is for members of the Senate Health and Human Services Committee. We will be meeting at 1:30. We have some confirmations, but the first bill we're going to hear will be Senate Bill 176, and that will be at 1:30. Thank you.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I mentioned yesterday the Appropriations Committee would potentially hear bills that were passed out of Committee of Reference on to Appropriations. Tomorrow morning, we will hear Senate Bill 189 in addition to the list that we have in the calendar.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee will meet at 1:30 to hear 2 bills, Senate Bill 59 for action only, and then House Bill 1179. We may start late due to the upon adjournment committee in the same room, so I'll be in touch with the committee members on that.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, it has come to my attention that Senate Bill 176 appears on the calendar twice. It shows it will be heard in Health and Human Services on both Wednesday and Thursday. For clarification, my announcement that Senate Bill 176 will be heard Thursday, which is today, March 23rd. Next Thursday. The date that you have on it. Thursday, March 23rd.
Very clear. Further announcements. Senator Hawkins-Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have Senate Local Government and Housing upon adjournment. We will not hear House Bill 1062 today, but we will hear Senate Bill 166. We'll see you in 352. And let's give it time. We better do it fast, 11:30.
Further announcements. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Seeing no further announcements, I move that the Senate recess until 12 p.m. today. Colleagues, you do not need to return. We're simply reading bills across the desk.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will recess until 12 noon today.